Welcome to Coffee and the Bull.
Hey guys, Mike and John with Coffee and the Bull. Today we have Blake joining us. He's gonna be our guest today. So I want to say thank y'all for taking a moment out of your day and giving us a listen. Just to start off, I know Blake from several years ago. When I started my journey in law enforcement, Blake was already in the game. He had already spent several years doing it, and I know it's probably not memorable for him, but for me it was. We had just, it was my first day. I hopped in, one of our, he's now both of our friends, Scott, hopped in Scott's unit, and Scott was going to take in. He was my training officer. So the first day he says, "Hey, look, we're going to shift meeting. We're going to go do our shift meeting." I didn't know what that was, and come to find out that was code for we're going to the PJ's Coffee House, and we're just going to drink coffee until we get the first call for service. And so I'm sitting there, I didn't know any of these guys. I didn't know, what law enforcement was going to be like. I thought I had an idea. I'm waiting on the first bank robbery to come out, and all this other stuff, like the cool stuff,
Right.
And we're sitting there drinking coffee, and I'm just like, oh my God, and so Blake walked in. He was a little bit after us. I think he had to spend more time getting ready that morning or whatever. But he walks in, and I remember thinking to myself that day, I was like, this dude looks good. He's ready for work. He's ready to get after it. Like, he is going to be, like, if I needed somebody to show up at my house, this is who I want to show up.
Boots were shined and everything, baby.
And then
boots were shined and everything.
And then Blake told me to stop looking in the mirror, But me and Blake kind of hit it off pretty good right off the bat. I think it's because we got, kind of similar judge of character or whatever or what have you. But about 6 months into my law enforcement journey, Blake had brought up, he was at a spot where he was leaving leaving that agency at the time, and so I remember getting him and his wife over, and we're sitting there talking because I was like, why would you leave this? This is the greatest job in the world. At the time I hadn't been hadn't really experienced a whole lot of of grief and stuff yet. I'm still in the honeymoon phase of the job. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, why would you leave? Like, if we're good at this, you don't leave. Like, this is your calling. Right. We're sheepdogs. We are the thin blue line. All those cheesy phrases, like that's what was. I was breathing that stuff at the time, and he just didn't shoot me down. Didn't do anything like that. But it was just simply, hey man, I'm burnt out. These are the reasons I'm burnt out. Give it time. It's going to come meet you. And I'll be so. It was about the same amount of time, about right at the 4.5 year mark, where I was just like, I've got to step out for a minute, and kind of recharge.
Yeah, and I think for me, and thank you for the kind words.
Usually he says when you're not here.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's what I was going to say.
Next episode, like,
I think
thank
that
God he's gone.
Well, and I think a couple of things. Like, I remember the first day you got there, so he probably doesn't tell you this. We're going on patrol, and there was a turtle in the middle of the road. And his FTO.
That was not the first day. That was like a month in.
I've never heard the
I saved a turtle. I 100%
he saved the turtle.
There's picture evidence of it.
And, so they took a picture, and the FTO made him get the turtle out of the road, community service. We were protecting.
He had to zoom out because my muscles were so big reaching down to pick it up.
So
it was basically
sorry about the lies on today's podcast.
Like it was
right.
You remember the 1980s movies where it was like, the arachnid or the big spider fighting Godzilla. That's what this turtle could fight Godzilla.
So anyway, no, it couldn't. It was the smallest turtle in the world. But anyway,
surprised you saw it on the road.
It's like the little thing from Finding Nemo.
Right. Oh, bro, what's going on, man? I think for me, and just talking about law enforcement, anytime somebody new comes in on your shift, and around the time that Mike had come in, I did what they called the death shift, where you go from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Yeah.
And so because we were short on guys and units, and so that had really kind of like, hey man, I'm in the toughest window of law enforcement, that 12 to 12 period.
Right.
And I always went into.
And just to not to interrupt, but just so for the people listening, that's your higher call volume. Like that's it's not it's,
right.
You start the moment the calls start, and by the time you quit is when the calls quit. So
you go in and
you're bumping and going the whole time.
Right, you're bumping and going. Like there was one day I caught 72 calls for service, and it kind of gets you burnt out. Now, some of them are like
they're dumb, but
they're dumb, but like, okay, I mean, some of them get canceled because of something stupid, or like, hey, no, everything's fine, like whatever. So, but you still are on the way, like you're still catching them. But when I first went into law enforcement, I'll never forget. Somebody told me, it was like, hey, you need to know who's going to have your back,
right?
And you need to know like quickly, you need to find out what their mental state is, why they want to do it, their experience level, and like what their experience level is, so that you can back them up and to prevent stuff. Because you guys know this in a smaller area, there's a strong chance if you're in this business a long time and being in patrol for that long, because I was in law enforcement before like hitting patrol, but like you're going to run into the same bit of characters, right?
Yep.
And so, like, if they see you and you treat them with a level of respect, then they don't know you. Like, but they might know me, and we might have a good connection. So, I just went into law enforcement, man. I actually was like you in a way. I wanted to like serve. I wanted to protect, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that I felt called to like serve, protect, stuff like that. But you talked about burnout, and look, I've had multiple different things, and I've been in law enforcement. I've been in high law enforcement. I've been in, low law enforcement, and I've seen the differences of like how you do things. And the higher I climbed, the higher I went, the more stressors that came down. But and I tell this to everybody that like I have these conversations with, there is no more stress than you being a patrol deputy. None. Zero.
Right.
Not detective, not, like maybe if you're an elected official, maybe. I mean, like they got to deal with a lot. Right. I assume they deal with a lot. The stress that they have to deal with, because they're over everything. Jail, like everything.
And somehow they're responsible even though they were never there.
Right.
It's
Well, because it's like it's your organization, you're elected, and like something that you, like, I saw a case out in Wyoming. This guy's taking his wife for his anniversary. They're going to like on a vacation, and they're like holding him accountable. And I'm like, I get what you're saying.
Right.
Like it's under his watch, but at the same time, like we're all human beings. So to your part about burnout, man, for me, I didn't think that I could reach anybody anymore. Like I didn't feel like that I could reach anybody inside the sheriff's office or wherever I was. That might need to be edited out, but
you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
I don't feel like that I could reach anybody. I didn't feel like that I had adequate, people
Support system.
a
Like
system
upper
around
support
me,
system?
because
Yeah.
I was catching so many calls and dangerous calls by myself.
Right.
And it's not, and it wasn't, and just to make this very clear, it's not because that they didn't want to come.
Right.
It's because they're on
volume.
something
Right,
else too, right? And
the
so
call volume was
the call volume, and I think that from a system like that, that is dangerous. That is like that is so crazy.
Right.
And I'll be real with you. I just got burnt out on not so much the job necessarily, but more so like all the other shit that you got to deal with on top of like the craziest job. And I'm not really ashamed to say this. Like I can see now like my mental state then versus my mental state now, and I see the problems and issues that I had. Look, I'm not ashamed to say what I thought that I had, and I think that people that can put two and two together of what I know that I did have. And I was just like, look, for my like mental health, for my physical health, I cannot continue to do this at this exact situation.
Right.
So when you came in and you talk about that, it was just like, look, man, this is best for me. You can think whatever you want about me.
Right.
Like he's leaving. He's scapegoating.
Right.
Like he don't. No, you. I don't want. This is about me. Right. Like this is 100% about me. And so when I got to a higher level of law enforcement, it wasn't about that. And so like it got to a place where when I moved on, okay, it got to a place where I knew what all the guys that I was over or what I would say, I know what you're going through, my guy. Like, I know what you're going through. Like, I'll go out there with you. Like, let's go.
Right.
And so I'm glad that I had the experience, but I also learned that, like, hey, man, if I could go through that and now running a business and now running a podcast, like what you're doing, it's like the stress is still there.
Right.
But it's so much more minimal of like, hey, man, if I can get through this call, then I know that I can get through this. And I think that it is the adversity that I saw and overcame then translates to other things. Because, look, man, it doesn't matter if you're in the military or if you're police or whatever. The adversity that you guys or anybody sees throughout a day is immense. And I think that when this cop gave me lip, well, you have no idea what he saw 30 minutes before he pulled you over, right? Like, and what did he pull you over? Oh, I was going 85 and a 70. Well, slow down.
Well,
that's the big thing.
I had one. I got a complaint filed against me one time because
I'm trying
to think about.
No, you did.
It was. We had a and I obviously can't go into too much detail with it, but we had a altercation with a guy that was epic level. It was not just a, hey, get on the ground and you put an arm bar, put him on the ground. Like, it was a knockdown, drag out, get after it. Like, we are all about business, and thank God other people showed up type fight,
Right.
And I remember I had this dude's blood all over my uniform and everything. And I got called off of that call to pick up before it was done. Like, we had to do in the unit, but we still had medical and all this other stuff to do for other people that were on scene. And they had me pick up and go to this call 30 minutes up the road that this lady had not been paying they hadn't been paying their truck note. Their car was getting repossessed, and she knew it. She just didn't know that was the exact repossession company that was coming to get it. Oh. I'm like, you got it. Like, you,
right.
You, so you ain't paid your note in 8 months.
You're still
it's not
coming
a surprise,
down.
I'm still coming down off
that high,
off the
and now you
got to
go deal with something. And not to discredit it and be like your problem is stupid, but it really is. Like, it's like you knew this
on a comparative
coming.
scale. It's like and so you don't know what 30 minutes ago what they were doing.
And two, like, one thing that I think law enforcement gets absolutely wrong across the board, not local. Okay,
right.
I'm just talking about across the board.
Right.
There are statistics that have come out in reference to deputies or officers that catch civil issues, right? Meaning like civil calls,
right?
Meaning like whether it be child whether
custody,
it be child custody, whether it
I
be
want my TV back from my wife,
or like a rent-to-own place lends you something and they want their TV back or whatever. In no way possible should a law enforcement officer be involved in that. None. Right. And unless a judge deems it worthy to, like, for child custody or whatever, like, hey, man, we are there to protect and serve from criminal aspects. And the general public doesn't really understand either, I don't think, about, like, what you can and cannot do in those types of situations.
Right.
And I think just across the board, you could cut how many calls out for meaningless BS, okay, for something. And I get, like, hey, man, you can be there so that an all-out riot doesn't break out, But it's those small calls of pettiness.
Yes.
Well, I find that those are typically the ones where you get your complaints and stuff like that, because you can't, like, there's certain things legally you can't do, but there's this expectation that, hey, I saw it on TV in the movie, the cop did this, so obviously you can do it. And so
my friend
because
Becky
you can't do something legally, they think that you're just being lazy.
Well, the one thing that I try to do when people question me is that I never wanted to go into a situation, and I met many of them, where I didn't know, but when I went into a situation where, like, hey, you can't do this, ma'am, sir, so, like, Pennsylvania versus Mims dictates, and you can read this for yourself, that I can do X, Y, and Z. Now what? And I always noticed, like, hey, when you give them the exact thing of what you cannot do or what you can do, magically
the problem is
resolved. Right. And I'm like, ma'am, sir, you can read it for yourself. And the big thing is, like, for officer safety, like, even on a traffic stop, I never went up to a car personally. I made them get out, okay? Because statistics will show this too. More people are going to get in trouble, okay, when you can't see, you're nervous, it's concealment. Right. Get out of the car. Right. And this is what we do. If it's on a busy street, we'd walk away. I walk like 25 foot away, like if it was on an interstate or whatever, because I'm protecting you at that point. Like, you can think this is petty. You can think that this is stupid. And I got made fun of doing that. No, people are dumb and on the streets and on the highway.
Yep.
So, like, even that, you can't pull me out of the car. And I figured Pennsylvania MEMS, like, quickly. Like, no, this is for my safety and it's for your safety. And I'm like, listen, if there's an issue, like, even if I let you go, which I guess I can say now because I'm not in it anymore, I pretty much let everybody go, you know? Like, I never really wrote tickets. I wrote one.
I hate writing tickets.
I do too. But,
I'm
like,
not a fan.
Well, first off, hey, unless it's egregious, you know, like, unless, now if it was like a wreck or something and I'm like, this is going to bite me if I don't do it, then I'd probably do it, you know? But, like, no, man, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And let's go about our merry way. Because I hope that everybody gets, because look, there's a shortage of cops, there's a shortage of issues, or there's a shortage of cops, there's a not shortage of issues.
Right, it's a continued climbing mountain.
It's a continued climbing mountain. And because people are so excessive to, okay, smartphone, you know, smart app, whatever they can do to call out or to get help, the burden for the police has gone up exponentially without the resources being put into that. And I think that in and of itself is a big deal too.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually, man, I've lost. I am at 85 pounds down. Thanks.
Nicely done, dude.
Yeah,
Nicely
85.
done.
I was gonna say something, but I didn't want to sound like a jerk if I started talking about, like,
No,
you look thin from a man I've never seen before, but from photographs, I'm like, looks a little bit thinner than normal.
Yeah, no, 85 pounds down, man. Carnivore diet has been the trick that I've used, the carnivore diet. Right. Last night I had 2 filet mignons, some strawberries, some blueberries, and I'm like, I can eat this and lose weight, and I go to the gym 4 times a week, so I guess
I'm sure.
I was gonna say,
got
'cause
a little bit more to do with it.
Literally everything you just said, I don't do.
Right.
And
well, look, I kind of nerded out a little bit because I don't listen to, like, so I'm in sports. I don't listen to sports podcasts really, other than a couple of friends that I want, like, they're, hey, what is he thinking? Why does he think this? And that's a good reference point of, like, nah, I don't really agree with that, or I do agree with it. But then I kind of nerded out on, like, nutrition and then, like, all this kind of stuff and, like, lifting. And I was like, dude, I feel great. I feel so much better. And one guy is Mike Iserdale is the guy, Dr. Mike Iserdale is the guy, and he's like a bodybuilder. He goes, you can't outrun a bad diet. And we had heard that, like, our whole lives. You know, you can't outrun a bad diet. And I'm like, light bulb, you know. And I think stopping drinking and just eating the whole thing of pizza.
Change to a healthier lifestyle, kind of. Yeah.
Well, and I love the buffalo breadsticks from Tommy's. Those bastards are good, you know. And I'm like, I want to eat this, but, you know, it's just like I can't keep doing that. But it was 85 pounds, man. It's
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. I want to get to mid-March is what we're trying to get to the hunt. Or I would say we, like somebody else is in there lifting weights with me in the gym.
you need your personality.
Yeah, right. No, but it's been a fun journey. I will talk about carnivore until the cows come home, pun intended. But it's been really good, man. It's like I thought I'd get burnt. You talking about burnout? I thought I'd get burnt out just eating meat. Dude, I eat steak like 3 times a week. I'm like, y'all are going to have to start convincing me that this sucks. Like, you're going to have to convince me that like me going to the griddle that this is, like, this sucks and that this is stupid.
Well, there's so many different ways you can cook a steak and different, you know what I mean? Like,
I just try to cook it good. That's all I do.
Well, the thing that I learned is, because I've eaten so much, like, red meat since March of this past year, it's like trying so many different things. Like, hey, man, I want a little spice to this, and I'll tell you, salt, pepper, and a little cayenne pepper. And somebody had told me about that, and I'm like, this is gonna suck. I'm gonna butcher this meat up, and dude. It was incredible, and I had just got some blood work, and I thought, like, hey, man, you're eating red meat, and, you know, my cholesterol is going to be stupidly bad. Pretty fine. I mean, it was a little high, but I was like, man, I was 350 pounds. You know, like I you know, I'm sure it was a lot worse eating those Twinkies. There goes the F word. Even sorry, they're good. Eating those Twinkies. You know, but that, you know. And that's another thing. We talk about cops. Man, I'll tell you, I'll say this. I had the worst diet.
Yep.
And I think that
we
so
all do
many
this
people,
because you try to squeeze in what you can when you can.
Right. And the worst part about it, like, because we do this too. We end up every shift, even though like we work for different places, like, you know, we work together at the same times, and so we'll be like, hey, let's get something to eat. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, my favorite nights to eat are when he's like, hey, I made this today, and he brings it to work, because he never brings,
no doubt,
he never brings the right, you know, like side with it. Like this dude shows up with this canned, jarred, whatever it was that his wife made.
No. So it was,
and he brings me one slice of bread. And
it's
but
all
like
I
a
had.
whole jar
It's all I
of
had.
meat. And don't get me wrong, like it was good. It was good.
So it
right?
was deer roast, and that we cooked.
Man.
But it come out like, when I say tender,
Dude.
like there was like,
and you got to
was
really
amazing.
cook a deer roast,
And
man.
Dude, it
like,
was
it was
amazing.
phenomenal. And I 100%, I'm the cook in my house. My wife cooked that. I'm not telling you how because it's a secret, but
Should be
she cooked
impressive.
it, and it was amazing. Like it could legit be.
I'll give you $20 for the rest.
Like
of it.
like a roast beef po' boy or whatever. Like it was
No,
tender.
it
It
was
was
amazing.
it was
Brings
amazing.
me one slice of bread.
That's all I had left because I ate the rest of the bread with it.
It was,
I
but it
hear
was
you.
good. But like, so we'll be sitting there, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we work the graveyard. You know, we're you know, 4 to 4, or I think you're what, 6 to 6 or
6 to
something
6,
like
yeah.
that. You know, so it's like 1 in the morning. It's like, what's open? Well, you got Jack in the Box, so we're gonna get sick from, or you got to go to Taco Bell, or you got, you know, Burger King that closes at 11. So it's like, what choice do you have but trash to eat?
Yeah.
You know, granted, we did just start doing this whole ice cream from the gas station, which sounds terrible, but South Louisiana, you can get food anywhere at a gas station. But they have decent
Delicious.
ice cream at that gas station. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, it's, I don't know why.
Yeah, dude. I mean, everybody says don't get this or that from a gas station. Like you've never lived in Louisiana,
Right,
You know,
right.
like that's.
I'll do
you know.
gas station sushi. It don't bother me.
Okay,
I won't go that far. Yeah, I won't go that far.
Right. Like, this
Look,
is the
I
same guy
gotta
who's
feed-
got like a trash
I gotta
can
feed the-
stomach, but
the-
then
right.
like complains
The
about his
tapeworms
stomach later.
got to get fed. So
Yeah. I mean, the only other thing that I'd say on that is like, even because we're out all the time, like me, you know, being in sports and traveling moderately a lot, you know, for things. People are like, well, what do you eat? Dude, I'll go to McDonald's, okay? I'll get 4, like, hamburger patties with no cheese, just plain, and I'll eat them, and I'll throw everything else away. And it's like, you can do it. It's
Right.
like, I had to figure out, like, hey, if I'm going to be serious about this, like, let's not mess up and have a whole basket of fries. By the way, basket of fries, $1.99 McDonald's. You know, I'm like, that's as simple as, like, you know, cutting out the carbs. And I'm like, you know, but has he introduced you to pork steak?
no.
Has he introduced you to
No.
Ronnie's Boudin?
Nope.
Shameless plug to our guys over at Ronnie's. I know the guys over at Ronnie's. Listen, on Thursdays,
Linda, listen.
y'all need to go to Ronnie's Boudin in Cracklin. By the way,
I haven't because we haven't worked that area, and I don't know that he's earned it.
Earned it.
Yeah.
You've had a finger
I said what I
inside
said.
me.
I
What
said
do
what I
you
said.
mean haven't earned it?
So
I'm not going to give any pretext. to
By
that
the
either.
way, I love our good friend Scott.
Mm-hmm.
He's wrong on one thing. It's not their best thing.
Scott, that's Blake saying that. That's
It's not. It's not. No.
I get
First
it.
off,
I'll stay your friend, Scott.
it's not. Ronnie's Boudin on Mondays. Thick, fat, juicy pork chop, cornbread, yams, greens, and red beans. Yes,
I
sir.
can say it's good. I can say it's good. So Thursdays is this giant pork steak that's served on a bed of boudin rice, but you also get mac and cheese that's got cracklings mixed in it.
Son. And you wonder why I had to lose 80 plus pounds. You know what I mean?
It was amazing.
Right.
It was amazing.
Well, I go in there and get his venison, get their venison and stuff like that. I got their green for Christmas and Thanksgiving. My brother, I always like get some like venison or whatever.
Right.
And the green pepper, man, the green pepper sausage, son. And then he did like this special like spicy pineapple venison. I'm like, I know I'm on carnivore, but I'm gonna kind of go off for like around Thanksgiving, you know, bro. This man can cook. I don't know. I don't know how he learned to put pineapple. And I'm like, pineapple. This is gonna suck, dog. I am telling you.
I made that for him the other night. I had I mixed some pork and deer with I called it a Hawaiian something or other. That was that pork Hawaiian I brought to you. Like, dude ignored a whole call just to eat it. I know You're gonna remember because I mixed the eggs with
Oh
it.
yeah. I didn't ignore a call.
Yeah, you did because
didn't.
you texted your shift partner and asked him to go take it for you because you were eating.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Must be nice to have
It
a-
was okay. It was okay.
Okay. All right.
okay.
That's not what he was saying that
So
night.
so